Hello, Richard.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me
Well,
today.
thank you for coming out. It's a horrible night out there, and you're very welcome in this little jewel in West Hampstead.
It is indeed. We're
Yeah.
at the West Hampstead Arts Club.
It is.
And you're about to perform your latest solo show.
That's right.
An Accent Waiting to Happen.
An accent waiting to happen. I've been doing this quite a lot around the country recently. It's basically stories, film clips, songs based around this rather wonderful book. It's a memoir that I wrote quite some time ago, but I thought I'd turn that into a show. I wrote that when I was 50. I thought I'm old enough to write a memoir. I know now if you're 14 you're old enough to write a memoir, but back then it was like thought a little bit inappropriate to think about writing a memoir until you were 50. So I've had a really lucky life. I'm a failed rock star, and that could be the saddest thing in the world. But I had a band in the 1970s called Doctors of Madness, and we were good, and we were different, and we were wrong band at the wrong time. Which meant that by the late 1970s, we were over, we were finished. And punk rock happened, and then New Romantics and all that sort of stuff. But that's when my good fortune sort of began, because I devised a one-man show, a music show, took that to America, just working with a tape recorder and some film clips and an acoustic guitar. And then when I came back from America, I thought I'd like to open a club that embraces multimedia, that embraces, and this was probably 1980. And the world, or the culture, subculture world was changing just a bit then. It had come from the nihilism and negativity of punk rock, say, to a slightly more outgoing, flamboyant club culture, but also two things happened more or less simultaneously, which opened up the world of possibility. One was Channel 4 came along, and with Channel 4 came a whole new approach to stand-up comedy. And also what came along was video art and MTV. And it started to become affordable. So I thought when I opened this club, it'll be spoken word, it'll be dance, it'll be video art, it'll be music, it'll be comedy, it'll be installations and whatever. So I did that for 4 or 5 years in the early 80s, and I had some great people come. Depeche Mode played there, Soft Cell played there, the Pogues played there, their first gig there. And it led me to a meeting with someone who said, would you like to be an actor? And I had no real desire to be an actor, but I went and met this person, and he sounded fun. He was fun. He was a director, and I didn't get a job with him, but he introduced me to an agent, and she said, well, I'll take you on for 3 months or 3 weeks, whatever it was. And I was very, very lucky. I got work straight away, firstly with a couple of really stupid things, but then I got a role in Batman with Jack Nicholson. I got a role in Robin Hood with Kevin Costner. I was doing Gangs of New York with Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio and Daniel Day-Lewis, and ended up doing Harry Potter and all those things, and then doing stage work, which took me around the world doing Shakespeare and stuff. And so, I mean, all that is incredibly lucky, fulfilling, exciting, of course, glamorous. And then over the last 20 years, one thing has led to another, and I've always been interested in contemporary art. So I've worked a lot with artists, the YBAs. I've worked a lot with galleries. I've worked with a lot of people who like to do something that is a little bit more ambitious than just putting a band on stage. And so, in the last 10 years, I've done some really wacky things. I sang in the Frank Zappa opera in the Royal Festival Hall. I wrote an opera with Gavin Bryars. I wrote a play. And I've done, lots of TV and teaching and all sorts of things. So my life has been a constant source of surprise to me because I never really planned anything. As I say, I teach quite a lot, and I always say to my students, there's two sorts of artists in the world: those who say yes and those who say no to an opportunity. And I, for better or worse, have always said yes to an opportunity and worried about it later. I once got
like
caught.
they say, if an opportunity strikes, say yes and then learn how to do it later.
I was chatting probably 20 years ago to a commercials director in Scandinavia who I'd worked with a lot, and I'd worked with him so much that when he phoned up to ask if I was available for a job, we very rarely spoke about a job, we just spoke about families and stuff. And I remember him saying, look, there's this Swedish national lottery commercial we're doing in Stockholm. I said, oh, that's great. How's your family? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And just as I'm about to hang up, I hear him say, you can ride a horse, can't you? And I pretend not to hear that. I think, how hard can that be? And I tell you, on a night shoot in Stockholm, outdoors, in minus 20 degrees with a horse that has got very different ideas from you, it's really difficult.
Was it by any chance bareback as well, or?
What's that?
And the horse, was it bareback, or?
It was, they said it was a horse, it was a pony.
Oh.
It was a Shetland pony, and they're all muscle and attitude, right? He didn't want me on his back. He wouldn't go forward, he wouldn't go back, he wouldn't stop, he wouldn't turn. All he wanted to do was flow me the whole time, which he did with great success.
Rebellious.
Yeah, rebellious.
Rebellious soul.
And so I've sort of put all these things into this one-man show, all these stories. I put film clips in, I put songs in from different musical adventures I've had with my band from the 70s, with a band from the 80s, with collaborations I've done with other musicians and so on. Tonight I'm playing with the great Clifford Slapper on piano, and Clifford is illustrious in his own way. He's played with David Bowie, with Boy George, with Mark Armand, with Pete Burns, with Lisa Stansfield. He's brilliant, and I'm you've heard. He's just a wonderful accompanist who knows exactly when to come into the spotlight and when to recede, and it's a joy because I don't have to tell him what to do. He's just got a fabulous instinct and wonderful musicality.
And you talk about all these beautiful experiences you've had in your life. Would you say that has shaped or changed how you perceive success?
Yeah, it does. Emma, the set changes more or less every night just to keep my own interest in it. But also, if I don't start chopping things out and just add things on, this can go on for 4 hours, this show. And I think people starting to wilt in the audience, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got to wind this up.
Is there anything you'd say you're the most proud of?
Yeah, I'd say 2 or 3 things I'm really proud of. I think I'm really proud of Doctors of Madness as a band, because 2 weeks ago we toured in Japan, 48 years after we made our first record. And there's a whole new generation hearing that music for the first time, and they go wild. So that's one thing I think, we were, as the cliche goes, ahead of our time, because we were before punk rock, but we were punk rock, but because we didn't know what punk rock, it didn't really compute. So that's one thing. And there's a stage show called The Black Rider with Marianne Faithfull. We toured the world for 2 years with that, with a director called Robert Wilson. So, it's every once in a while, there's something that you do and it's a one-off and it happens for a day and you're really proud of that, you did that. And sometimes there's these projects that take quite a lot of time, Cabaret Futuribus go for 6 years, or when you do live theatre, quite often you're doing that for a year or 2 years. I've worked with so many heroes, whether it's Robert Wilson, Tom Waits, whether it's Martin Scorsese or Tim Burton or whoever. I've just been incredibly lucky.
And so would you like to say that this is the takeaway you want your audience to leave with tonight?
Yeah, I think the takeaway is
Seize the moment.
seize the moment. Don't be fooled by this myth of failure. You know, I'm a failure, but God, I've had a great life.